Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 4 of the BetRivers TableTalk podcast presented by PokerNews. I'm Chad Holloway, joined by Keith Becker over in Pennsylvania? Or you're a Pennsylvania guy.
I'm in Pennsylvania, yes.
Yeah. I don't know why I thought New Jersey for a minute. Because you were in New Jersey playing recently, right?
I was a little while ago. I was in New Jersey, and just recently I was playing some live poker in right here in Pennsylvania at the closest casino to me. So
nice.
Yeah.
We'll get into that here in a moment, and also a bunch of other stories. We're going to talk about everything happening at BetRivers, of course, including some upcoming promotions, the summer warm-up series that's going to run May 3rd through the 17th, and then I have an interview with Jesse Wilke, who is the director of poker marketing at BetRivers. So we got a little theme here, Keith. We started with Phil Galfond, which was a player, right, in episode 1. Episode 2 was Jason Senti, who is more the operator side of things. And then last month's episode was Dr. Dad, Dan Schill, a player. And now we're going back to the operator side of things.
We're just going back and forth. Okay.
So I get into it with Jesse. It was a really eye-opening conversation, you know, to hear what BetRivers does from a marketing and promotional side. I mean, you're intimately tied to that. You get to see it when you go to these things with Phil and stuff, and the passion and the effort that they put in behind the scenes.
Yeah, I get to see it a lot. I'm sad I didn't get to join you in the conversation directly with Jesse, but I've talked to him before, and the level of insight and hands-on approach that they bring. I always say, I think with BetRivers you can really tell that it's a poker site run by players who are passionate about the game versus just, you know, suits who are like, oh, let's make the line go up. Like, there's a lot of love for the game shown in everything that they do.
Yeah, and we get into all kinds of stuff about that player-friendly, player-focused approach. We talk about the potential of New Jersey and when that might come for BetRivers, and Jesse was just a great conversation, so stick around for that. Let's talk about this summer warm-up series, Keith. It's going to be taking place in about a week as we're recording this, May 3rd through the 17th, 68 events, $500K, more than $500K in guaranteed prize pools, including a $40K guaranteed main event, $200 entry. There's a super high roller, PKOs, turbos, PLO, high rollers. Like, are you going to be on the grind like you usually are for these things?
Absolutely. I've been playing a little bit live recently. Unfortunately, my most recent stint live struck out, but so I'm itching to get back and play on the online streets, chase some of these trophies. I love that it's a huge spread, like you said, with the big guarantees out there, and I love that there's a little bit of something like they're adding some more PLO, some PKO, some turbos, a lot of variation in this series.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. We'll do a recap on Poker News, I'm sure, and of course talk about it in next month's episode. And I can actually tease right now, I guess, Keith, that the plan, at least right now, and fingers crossed it comes to fruition, is to have Phil Hellmuth as our guest in next month's episode.
Very nice.
Yeah, so we'll go back to the player side of things. And because I kind of said, like, guys, this will be an episode right before the World Series of Poker. What better time than to get Hellmuth, who's the 17-time WSOP bracelet winner, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of Hellmuth, I actually want to look real quick. So I always think it's fun to just pull up his Twitter and see what he's been up to lately.
You never know what you're going to find, honestly.
I've been recapping his Hellmuth home game, which is by Poker Night in America, and of course sponsored by BetRivers. The episodes are airing every Monday night right now, I think 9 p.m. Eastern time, and will continue to do so until the end of May. It's been some interesting games. There's been some big pots. His son, Philip Hellmuth III, who goes by P3, has been there. Randy Sadler, 3Coin, DJ Washburn. So these have been fun. You can check those out on CBS Sports Network, and I think they're putting a lot of the old episodes on their YouTube channel. So definitely check out those. We'll talk about that with Hellmuth, if he is our guest next week, more about the Hellmuth home game. And then, I don't know, did you see this video on his Twitter from just last night as we're recording this? He gave a little tour of his condo in Las Vegas because he's there.
I did not, but I'm very curious to see that. I think I told you last time we talked about it that he sort of gave me crap about that in person. I saw him and he was saying that he was he was surprised how much we talked about his living space.
Well, he seems to be very proud of it.
I'd be very interested to see. I'll have to check out the video.
Yeah, I'm sure we've shown some clips here as we're talking about it. It's got a great view of the Sphere, actually. So I'm going to try to arrange something with Poker News to send our camera guy and maybe Connor Richards over there, unless you can wait till I get there in Vegas or yourself. And we'll do a tour, like an in-depth MTV crib style thing with Phil Hellmuth.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great.
Let's see. He's also been traveling around as he does, name dropping. There's just like some recent things. Jason Kuhn, hanging out with Jason Kuhn and Hellmuth in a cowboy hat. I haven't really seen that before.
Oh, no. I have not seen that either. I can't really picture it.
Yeah, he was down in Texas playing poker with some folks down there, so hence the cowboy hat. And I don't know, it's always fun with Phil. I actually was hanging out with some guys here in Wisconsin who grew up with Phil, go back many, many years, and we were talking about, and we've talked about it on the show here before, about how genuine Phil is. I know a lot of people out there who only see him from TV just see the poker brat or think it's all an act. But like once you get to know Phil and how much of a family man he is and how philanthropic he is, he's a bit of a narcissist and has an ego, but he is also very genuine and very caring.
Yeah, I see it. There it is. I had to look up the Phil in the cowboy hat. I needed to see it for myself.
That's great. Like I said, we'll catch up with more with Phil next month here on the BetRivers TableTalk podcast. And also, we'll do our first giveaway. I teased this last month to do our first giveaway here on the show, and then we'll announce the winner in next month's episode. I don't know the specific items, but I've been told that we can give away a care package. It could have, and I brought a few things, because they sent me a care package, which had BetRivers gloves.
Okay.
I don't know if you have a pair of these. So nice. A hat. I don't need the winter hat right now because the weather's actually turned nice.
I have a couple of those. Yeah, those are nice.
And then there's like a very nice hoodie that.
Okay. Nice.
So we'll see. Whoever wins will win a care package courtesy of BetRivers. Have it sent to you, and all you have to do is to enter to win. I think all we want you to do is leave us a review for the show, for the podcast, on whatever platform you are you're watching or listening, right? So Spotify is there, Apple Podcasts, preferably 5 stars, and then I will randomly select a winner. And pretty easy, I think.
There you go. Yeah, low barrier to entry for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of receiving things in the mail, did you receive your trophy from the last BetRivers online series that they did? You had the Summer Saver.
I only have the one from the BPC. I haven't received the other one yet, but yeah, still holding out for that one.
Maybe we'll get to show that off on next month's episode. And then you mentioned already in this episode you were playing some live poker. I think it was the Run Good Poker Series.
I did. I was playing at Run Good. The closest casino to me is Hollywood Casino Penn National Racecourse. So I went there last year and I played again this year. Unfortunately, did strike out. I had some success at the previous Run Good stop that I mentioned in New Jersey. This one, not so much, but the vibes are always amazing. The people and the crew that they bring are great. The structures are great. I don't have enough good things to say about Run Good, honestly. I love those events.
Yeah, I do too. I was in their stop in Reno recently, and it's actually, while I was there, I went over to the Grand Sierra Resort, which is where they film Hellmuth's home game. They weren't filming at the time, but I wanted to check it out. But yeah, Run Good is always a blast. And then I actually saw you in person. We didn't have the opportunity to record anything. There wasn't a lot of BetRivers overlap, but we were both in Prague in the Czech Republic for the 2026 World Series of Poker Europe.
Yeah, I got the chance to go out to Prague for some of WSOP, and I'm certainly glad I didn't pass that up. Gorgeous city. I got a day to walk around, visit the castle and the bridge that have existed since like 1348, and it's like layer of architecture in that city. It's just beautiful. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite cities. I used to travel there quite a bit, but it's been over 10 years since I'd been back. Happy to say it is just as lovely and enjoyable as it was back then. Still one of my favorites. And the WSOP itself was pretty fun, a good success. Yeah. Unfortunately, I know Hellmuth was originally going to go, but then ended up having to cancel his trip. I think there were some family things going on.
I heard too, yeah.
Yeah, but it was still overall, I think, a big success and a lot of fun. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think the events seemed like they went well. It seemed like they hit some metrics that they wanted to hit for that series. And yeah, like I said, gorgeous venue. I'd be happy to go back. And affordable too, man. We got like an Italian dinner out there that would have been probably like, I don't know, $150 a person, and it was like $40 a person in Prague. Beautiful food.
I actually, so there's a comic book store in Prague that I discovered a decade ago, and I was wondering if it was still there, so I went and checked it out, and it was. And I collect like comic stuff, right? Statues.
I saw your recent picture with the Gambit and Rogue cover on the floor. I like comic books. I'm not much of a in stark contrast to you, I'm not much of a like physical item collector, but I do love read comic books. I've had like an ongoing subscription to like Marvel Unlimited, and so I'm a big fan of like just the media. And I was kind of jealous of your room, or I thought it just looked really cool.
I appreciate it. I do have a comic book room. I do have way too much stuff, and I do feel trapped by my possessions at this point. But it was, like I grew up, in a trailer park to a mom who, it was hard for her to make ends meet. She gave me the best that she could. But then you get older, and you get a little expendable income, and all of a sudden you find yourself buying all this stuff you wanted as a kid. And now I've got a comic book room. Nice. And so when I was in Prague, I went back to the comic book store, and they had a G.I. Joe. I've been into G.I. Joe since I was a kid, kind of got back into it now. But they had a really nice G.I. Joe statue diorama for what equated to like $380 US, right? Okay. Which is cheap for this particular piece. If I wanted to get it in the States, I would have had to pay at least $1,000, which I wouldn't have done. Okay, so I'm like, well, this is a great deal.
Again, the affordability of the city,
Right. And so I ended up buying another suitcase just so I could put the statue in the suitcase. I was literally just about to
ask, like, how did you get it home? Did you like ship it to yourself, or no? So you had to buy not only that, but also a suitcase to transport it in.
So it was like $30 for the suitcase
fee, probably, and everything.
Still cheaper, but I do have it here, so that's my takeaway. And I'm sure I've shown pictures here on the podcast, but I don't know, I couldn't resist. It was a treat for myself, and well, let's talk more about some BetRivers stuff that is coming up. You mentioned, I think you were there at Penn National with him during the Run Good Poker Series. Anthony Ciacli, apologies if we've butchered that name. We will learn it for sure. But he goes by @Idehoagie on Twitter. I've known him from social media for many years. He's been around, and he officially has announced and become a BetRivers content creator, ambassador, if you will. We got a little video of it. Check it out.
All right, thank you for joining us on this press conference for signing day today. It's a big day here. Who are we going to sign with? Is it PokerStars? PokerStars, I just cashed in one of their events. They do a great job, but you know what? Sorry, PokerStars not going to be PokerStars. WSOP World Series of Poker. No, it's not, but I'm going to be out there for Vegas. They do a great job every year. I love the World Series of Poker. I'll be out there this summer, but it's not them. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Is it BetMGM? BetMGM Poker's been great. They have one of the best products online. They have a great casino sports book. I can't say anything really bad about them. I love working for them in the past. But you know what? It's not BetMGM. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Your boy is going exclusively to BetRivers. I'm going to be kicking off with casino streams that you're going to absolutely love. I'm going to be making social media content that's going to be wild and coming later this year to New Jersey, baby. BetRivers Poker. Buckle up, baby. Let's get it! Hoagie, BetRivers, out.
All right, so there you have it. Congratulations, Anthony. Welcome to the BetRivers team. Keith, you actually, like I said, met him in person at the Run Good stop. I don't know if you knew him before that or what your situation is, but tell me a little bit about
similar to you,
Anthony.
Just kind of through socials and seeing him just in being both kind of poker and, in the industry, creating content and things like that. So we've interacted on Twitter and stuff like that. I think I've seen him in my Twitch chat, those kind of things. From what I understand, Anthony is getting started with BetRivers doing casino content because the poker has not launched, as we mentioned, yet in New Jersey, although it is supposedly coming soon, and is the most common question I get in my Twitch chat about BetRivers for sure is when New Jersey. But yeah, so he's starting with some casino content, and I think we'll be transitioning into a mix of casino and poker content upon launch of Poker New Jersey.
Yeah, it's awesome. He does have a podcast. It's called the Nerdthusiast Poker Podcast. You can find it on Spotify right now, probably some others. He had an interview with Dr. Dad, Dan Schill, back in December. I remember watching that and covers some various stuff from interviews to other things happening in the poker world. So check out the Nerdthusiast Poker Podcast. And maybe we'll have to ask him to be a future guest here on the TableTalk BetRivers show.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. I think he's also, we've been trying to work out schedules. I might join him on his as well, so we can swap.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So congratulations, Anthony. Welcome to the team. I'm sure we'll be seeing him play in the upcoming May summer warm-up series, May 3rd through the 17th. And then, Keith, we were just talking before the show about some of the incentives that they have for players who are going to play this series.
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff going on. They have some early bird registration. So if you register the events before they start, you get entered for daily ticket draws. I believe there's like $500 total given away every day. So you can just get lucky and bank a ticket. And then they also have encore free rolls. So it's based on volume. If you play 5 events, you get into a 4K free roll. And if you play 10 events, you get into a separate 4K free roll. So,
love it. Incentives to play are always good for players. I talk about those incentives, Rakeback Revolution, and more with my interview with Jesse Wilke, the director of poker marketing for BetRivers, which we'll toss to here in just a moment. But before we do, Keith, I want to ask you one of the questions that I ended up asking Jesse, and I'm just curious of your answer. So we did some rapid fire questions with Jesse.
Okay.
One of the questions would be, this summer, 2026 World Series of Poker, they have a tag team event. And if you had to choose a Phil, whether Phil Hellmuth or Phil Galfond, to be your tag team partner in said event, who would you choose and why?
That's tough. Man,
I know what he said, and I know what I said. I'm not going to share those with you because you'll have to watch the rest of the interview I did with him. But curious to get your take.
Personally, I think I would choose Phil Galfond, and I think the reason might not be necessarily what everyone suspects, but I think in a lot of live events especially, I don't have a lot of live experience, and I tend to default to my standard strategy, which is to play too nitty, too conservative. And I think Phil Galfond is really good at balancing his range and finding bluffs, and if I got to talk to him about that a little bit and sort of get coaching from him, that would help me branch out my game in that direction. Or we could just balance by him bluffing and then me netting it up when it's my turn.
I love it. It's hard to go wrong with Phil Galfond. Speaking of which, if you didn't check out our debut episode of this very show, do so. Episode 1, we had Phil Galfond as our very first guest, and it's well worth going back, checking that out if you haven't seen it. So, but this week's guest, or this month's guest rather, is also well worth sticking around and listening to, because you're going to learn a lot about BetRivers, about how it's grown to be where it's at, their philosophies and the things that they do behind the scenes. So without further ado, here is my interview with the director of poker marketing at BetRivers, Jesse Wilke. All right, we are with our guest this week, episode 4 of the TableTalk podcast, presented by PokerNews and BetRivers, Jesse Wilke, the director of poker marketing at BetRivers. Jesse, I'm very excited to have you on the show. You and I chat quite a bit behind the scenes, but we get to bring you into the forefront and spotlight you here in this episode. So welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and represent BetRivers Poker. Glad that we could send you a few guests a little bit more exciting maybe before me, but I'm happy to be here to talk about everything we have coming up with BetRivers over the next month.
Yeah, I think anybody who likes BetRivers, plays on BetRivers, is going to enjoy this conversation, because we're going to talk about you and what you bring to the table, so to speak, because I've gotten to know you quite a bit, and your wealth of knowledge is deep, and it's back because you also, you know poker, right? You play poker. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about who you are and how you came up in the industry?
Sure, yeah. So I have been involved with poker in some form or another for about 25 years. Not to date myself too much, but ever since I was 18, I had a background playing a lot of games competitively, chess, StarCraft, Magic the Gathering. And when I turned 18, I realized that all of these games that have very strong player bases that don't have a bunch of money in them, I could set them aside and learn how to play poker. And that would be a good opportunity for me to try and make some money, right, in my 18-year-old logic. So I started off as an online player. Predominantly, I played sort of as a hobbyist and part-time player for about 4 years. And then one day, I was laid off from my job at a cell phone company, and I realized I was already making more playing poker. So that's when I decided to try and give it a go. And I played professionally for about 10 years. With predominantly online. I think like a lot of people of my era and age, I ran into Black Friday in April of 2011. And when that happened, I tried a few things. I tried bouncing around outside of the country for a while, and continuing to play online. And I transitioned to live play as well. And held some pretty good success on the World Series circuit and in live cash games for a long time. And then my entry into the corporate side of online gambling and online poker was in 2018 when PASPA was overturned. Many companies started recruiting for positions in New Jersey, and I thought it would be a really interesting challenge to work on the operator side. And so I originally worked for a company called William Hill. They were acquired by Caesars Palace in 2019. And I was there for 5 years between William Hill and Caesars Palace, working almost entirely on the casino and sportsbook side, not much in poker. And then late 2023, a great opportunity popped up in my newsfeed to work in online poker again as the director of poker marketing at Rush Street Interactive. And I hopped all over that opportunity. So I started about 2 years ago. I just had my 2-year anniversary here. And I have been so lucky and fortunate to work with such a great team of poker enthusiasts and professionals and really put together an amazing product.
Yeah, congratulations on 2 years. And speaking of anniversaries, you mentioned Black Friday. It's crazy. We just celebrated quote, the 15-year anniversary of Black Friday, which is crazy.
Yeah, we certainly weren't celebrating at the time. I kind of always used to joke. It was, a bunch of my friends and I woke up April 11th, 15 years ago, and woke up to find out we didn't have a job any longer.
Yeah, it's wild that it's been that long and how that changed the industry. So tell me a little bit about your current role, Director of Poker Marketing. What does that actually mean kind of on a day-to-day basis for you? I mean, obviously it's got to be very busy. BetRivers is continuing to grow, and I know you've been very involved with that.
Yeah, we very, with a lot of gratitude and appreciation towards our players, we are continuing to grow. I think when you say director of poker marketing, it sounds very ad heavy and marketing heavy, but I think a big part of the role is really just managing the poker ecosystem that we have on platform from a player behavior and economic standpoint. And a lot of that is being involved with thinking about what our promotions are, how we're rewarding players. So yeah, I think there's some obvious stuff that we do as well with advertising and the way that we present ourselves visually. But a lot of the job is really just drawing on that former poker play experience and figuring out how do we get our players in, how do we keep them playing, what do they like, and how do we do that in a way that actually makes sense long term. So that's reward structures, pricing, leaderboards, how different players behave and what motivates those players to show up on our platform, and then working really closely with our product team and our operations team so that not only are we communicating to them in a promotional and marketing way that appeals to them, but also that we're operating our tournament schedules, our cash game pools, and presenting a product that our players will enjoy, that feels natural and smooth to them. We really want to build the platform that we wish we always had to play on, and it really helps to have that level of expertise. Many of our poker team are former professional poker players and have a ton of experience in the online space.
I know one of the things that BetRivers does, or one of the promotions that is very popular, just got extended. We've talked about it on this show many times, is the Rakeback Revolution. Tell me a little bit about that, like the genesis of that. How did it come about internally? How was it, perceived? Was it different than what you guys expected? And ultimately, what led you guys to extend it into 2027?
Yeah, I'm going to give a ton of credit to Phil Galfond for the idea. I would say when we talk about the genesis of Rakeback Revolution and how it came about, it was really 100% his advocacy. And the idea really is that if you think about how most operators treat poker in this space, they are very focused on top line poker revenue. That's how much money a poker site is directly making from poker rake and play. And what we came to realize is that it's very difficult to be one, to execute that successfully and to come into a marketplace where that's our business model. And two, if we're being honest, right, it's a very small slice of the overall kind of iGaming online wagering revenue pie. And so rather than try to occupy that space, Phil always advocated for what happens if we really have our value be that we are going to give significantly more back to players than what a traditional operator would. And in that, we have a message that asks, if you're going to come play poker with us, please treat us as your full gaming experience, right? If you like to play casino, if you like to bet on sports, join us for that as well. And we know that we will have many players who only play online poker, and that's fine, and those rewards are still available. But by really kind of treating it as part of our overall platform, and we're able to just, I think, be way more generous and give way more back. And that really feeds into what Rakeback Revolution is intended to do. We really spent a lot of time looking at competitive offerings from our competition to see what they were doing and figuring out how we could go above and beyond that, how we could make it more native and intuitive to players and give them the opportunity to redeem the rewards either for poker items or for casino and sports items. And so, I would say, again, big credit to Phil Galfond for coming up with that. I think it's not to be too corny here, but I think it's a revolutionary idea, and therefore we call it Rakeback Revolution. And it was just a matter, once we had that very clear vision of what a poker operator should be in terms of doing rewards and doing rakeback, of translating that into some terms and conditions. So I got the easy chunk of doing that work.
Right. I think it's great. It's very well received. It really fits into the BetRivers, the kind of the by the players, for players philosophy. And I like how BetRivers, it's not focused on just, say, high volume players or just the high volume markets for that matter. Like, there's the Diamond State Rakeback, which is the first of its kind program in Delaware, right? Delaware, I get, is really small. Maybe the liquidity there isn't huge, but you guys still pay attention and give some love there. And I got to imagine that the players there really like that because, honestly, when I think online poker in Delaware, there literally is no other than BetRivers that comes to mind.
Yeah, we love to pay attention. I think when you run an online poker platform, really the key is to be as accessible and as welcoming to as many different players as you can. Some of those players are, these hardcore crushing grinders that are going to put in a ton of volume and are really motivated to win. Some players are recreationally just having a great time. They're in, areas like Delaware or West Virginia that have been historically, I think, ignored by our competitors and they're underserved. And we want to bring them on board and really have this player first individual focus where you feel like no matter what kind of player you are, you're being taken care of. There's something for you. It feeds, I think, not only into the design of our site, but how we structure our promos. So, we have a great Rakeback Revolution program, and that very heavily benefits players of all types. But we also have promotions and prizes that are tailored towards a more recreational experience. It's not just, you don't need to, I think, have years of online poker play to jump on BetRivers and have a good time and start from a pretty easy base and find that you get a lot of rewards for doing so.
Let's talk about the growth of BetRivers because it grew and it grew fast and it continues to. I know one of the big markets that you guys made a lot of leeway in was Pennsylvania and really capturing some market share there. In your opinion and your experience, what kind of drove the growth in Pennsylvania and elsewhere? And were there any surprises for you along the way?
Yeah, I think in Pennsylvania, one, I think players were really receptive to that early messaging that we had about being more rewarding. I think it helps that we're so engaged in our communities. In Discord particularly, we're very active and very responsive to players. You can always kind of get a response or an answer, get the most updated news of what's happening, and feel like you have some additional resources and lifelines there. I would say that the online poker industry as a whole really has to credit our partners with state regulators for getting behind and supporting the MSIGA. That's the agreement that allows states to share players from with each other on the tables, and that leads to better game availability, bigger tournament prize pools. And it really means that whether or not you're in a larger state like Pennsylvania or Michigan, or you're in a smaller state like West Virginia or Delaware, you have access to those really big tournament prize pools, lots and lots of tables of cash games to play on. And so just the responsiveness to that as we launched multi-state poker in June was really encouraging to see. And yeah, I do think there were some surprises that we learned along the way. I think one of the big things that we learned is that we see some, of our competitors do the occasional kind of gimmicky pop-up and promo. And what we've really learned, I think, over time is just having that consistent layer where players are really feeling every week that they're hitting the reward levels in a way that's consistent. And that's not just centered around these one or two kind of gotcha grab moments. Really, the amount that players have valued and come back to that for us, I think, has been a big lesson.
I would like to talk a little bit about what's going on currently for promotions. It is towards the end of April now, but I know throughout the month you guys had the April Phils promotion where folks could get Phil Hellmuth and Phil Galfond bobbleheads, which I think is great. I love how you guys lean into these. They're two superstars of the game. Honestly, like top five, and for BetRivers to have like two of the top five guys in poker is pretty incredible. And obviously, both have very unique and distinct voices, but very well respected in our industry. Talk a little bit about having both Phils as part of the team, and then also building promotions and doing things with them.
Yeah, I think that it's great. We really love that their personalities are so different, and it creates this fun, I think, juxtaposition to play off where you have somebody like Phil Galfond, who's very studious and thoughtful, and really, he's like anytime you listen to Phil Galfond speak, it's like a learning moment, an educational moment. And then you contrast that with somebody like Phil Hellmuth, who just really high energy, lots of awareness, always doing something crazy, always having a good time, always posting some great videos for what he's up to on Twitter and traveling around and really capturing a very large audience and both in his poker play and how he appears on TV, right? We hear from a lot of our recreational players, like I love watching him on TV. And I think that really feeds into what I was saying earlier about it doesn't really matter if you're a recreational player, if you're a middle stakes player, if you're a high volume professional or semi-professional player, no matter what kind of Phil you are, there's a seat for you at the table at BetRivers Poker, and we really love to lean into that. And we think they're both important for some similar reasons and some very different reasons as well.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I'm big fans of both of them. Both of them have a connection to Wisconsin as well, which is where I'm from, of course. What are some other things that are either going on with BetRivers right now or might be coming up here, in the new month, or maybe even looking ahead to the summer?
Yeah, that's great. So we, you mentioned the bobbleheads. It's a lot of fun. We really enjoy coming up with some creative ways to and some fun ways to reward players and give them some collectibles. And we listen to community feedback too. I think probably we've talked about socks a few times, and that I'm sure that's come up. But those holiday socks were a big hit, and we're going to continue to to drop those kind of limited items and inject some fun over the really as long as we're around and having the ability to listen to our community and come up with those fun ideas. In terms of things that we have coming up, or that we have going on, and then coming up, we always have our cash game leaderboards. It gives a great opportunity to compete and see how you stack and how you can place versus other players. And we structured those in a number of different ways. Right now, we have them split where we have a weekday and a weekend leaderboard. And our lower stakes leaderboard is intended for players who may not be putting in the same kind of level of volume and want, kind of bit of guaranteed rewards at set kind of lower levels, right? And then there's still an ability to finish a little bit higher and get more rewards there. We almost always have a promo rotating between cash games, sit and goes, and tournaments. We have something running at all times for all of those. We are going into, or we just came out of our double glitch promo, which is a great one, where, with our sit and go select games, sometimes when you don't win, you can, you don't finish first in the sit and go, you can still win a glitch prize, which is when the game kind of glitches out and awards you a prize anyway. And so our double glitch promo adds on to that. With tournaments, we have a couple of great things coming up. I think most notably, in the first week of May, we're coming up on our summer warm-up series, and this is going to be a 2-week long series. $500,000 guaranteed prize pool between all of the events. We have free rolls so if you participate in summer warm-up series events, you also get entered into, you can get entered up into one of up to two $4,000 free rolls. And that's great because, we're, I think the incentives across that and the promotions that we have across that event make it fun to play through the whole series, not just, I think a lot of people center around and hover around trying to spike the main event, but the way that we set up our series makes it a lot of fun to participate the whole series long.
Yeah, I know Keith, who wish he could be here for this part of the show, fortunately couldn't, but he's going to be grinding the summer warm-up series, as you mentioned, beginning in May 3rd through the 17th. 68 events on there. Poker News will do our best to recap with all the big winners and, of course, talk about it in the next episode of Table Talk. I want to also shout out one thing that I like. I actually like to call this out anytime I see it in poker, whether it's online or live, and that is when there's an incentive for players to register early or on time, right? Because I think the poker world has gotten way too reliant on late reg. I'm guilty of it myself. I'll admit I do late reg more often than not, but I like when there's an incentive to be there on time. You guys have the early bird registration for daily 500 ticket draws, which I think is just like a little enough incentive for me to be like, all right, I'm going to be an early bird.
Yeah, we do that with players in mind too. Like we know, absolutely register late if you'd like. We know some people don't like the early levels, but one, we want to give you a reward if you come in early, and two, we really think that helps support having really exciting guarantees and makes those larger amounts possible, right? When we talk about having a main event with a big payout, when we talk about having our daily events have meaningful payouts to our players, and really pushing the envelope on what we can execute, getting people to come in and play a little bit earlier and giving them an incentive to join. We really think that helps create a better experience across the board for our tournament series players.
I've got to ask, and I don't know how much you're at liberty to share, but we'll get whatever update we can, and that is New Jersey. It is on the mind of a lot of players when it comes to BetRivers. Obviously, a very lucrative market, the first ever online poker market legalized in the U.S. What is the current status of New Jersey from the BetRivers lens?
Yeah, New Jersey remains a top priority. It has been for us for a long time. I think when you talk about doing a state launch, there's a lot of complexity for each different state. They have their own set of rules around the operation of the platform, how you do your financial reporting. And so while we can't get into details too much about when our exact launch date, we do treat it with a sense of urgency. We're grateful with our partners at the DGE, and we are working with them very closely to get a poker product available as soon as possible. We know our players are asking for it. We hear you in Discord. And I think second only to the New Jersey group of players that want to hop on and really have a shot at playing on BetRivers Poker, we want to deliver that for you and make it possible. So, I would say hang on tight. It is coming soon. But we can't give a specific launch date at this time, unfortunately.
Yeah, but still exciting to know it's coming down the pipeline, and I will be very excited to talk about it when it does. All right, Jesse, before I let you go, I want to do a little fun segment here at the end if you're up for it. Just some rapid fire questions. Starting with, I know you're a poker guy. What's your favorite poker format?
If I had to pick one format to play from now till the end of time, it would be pot limit Omaha split 8 or better. one of my absolute favorite game formats. Fortunately, there's not a lot of cash game support for it, and if you're looking for tournaments, it's pretty much just that summer World Series event at this point.
Yeah, I'm a 4-card guy myself, but I think I would stick with straight PLO. I actually learned from Phil Galfond I used to write an online series for Poker News called the Online Railbird Report, and this is when Phil played the nosebleeds, and so I recapped all the big hands and learned a lot doing that. What is a pet peeve, a poker pet peeve of yours, whether it's live poker, online poker? Everybody's got a poker pet peeve. What's yours?
Yeah, I have. I'll give two. So one is players who eat and then touch the chips or their cards without washing their hands. It's just like the cards and the chips are gross enough. That's the fun one. The serious answer is that I think that when you're a professional player, it's I think kind of your job to make the game fun for everybody else. And so I would say I really don't appreciate when people get mad at bad beats and lecture players or yell at players. You're just sending them out of the ecosystem into something else, right? We want them on the poker tables having a good time with us. So, really protect the game and think about what's happening outside of the individual hand and why it's important to treat everyone well at the poker table.
Here. I wholeheartedly agree with that. What is one feature that you wish existed everywhere, right? So we've all seen, whether it's online, live, like a poker tour, a poker site, they do something that we really like, and we're like, oh, everybody should do that. What's some sort of feature that you wish existed everywhere?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that a lot of poker sites don't really do well is kind of democratize players' data and make it more apparent and visible to players. And I think that really sort of over time gives an advantage to players who already play a little bit better. So I think, I would pick that better visibility and transparency of your own playing data. And I think BetRivers has done a pretty good job of bridging that gap with your IQ and head stats.
Yeah. I think that's a smart one. Last question then. World Series of Poker is coming up. They have a tag team event at the World Series of Poker. And if you had to choose your tag team partner for said event between Phil Hellmuth and Phil Galfond, who are you going to choose?
Oh, man. That's a dilemma because I think that I've learned more about poker from Phil Galfond than anybody else. I also was a huge fan and really looked to him as a voice of education and authority back when I was a player. On the other hand, it's hard to choose anybody but the guy who has the most bracelets of all time, right? So, I think he'd be a lot of fun at the table and keep it interesting too, which is great when you're playing for 12 hours and going late into the night. So, much respect to Phil Galfond, but I think I'm going to go with Phil Hellmuth on this one.
I mean, there's a good marketing play here of just having those two play as tag team partners. Can you imagine Phil Galfond and Phil Hellmuth wearing the BetRivers patch and they ship the tag team event for bracelets? You can't buy publicity.
I think for an added challenge, like they have to impersonate each other at the table. So you have to have Phil Hellmuth talking in Phil Galfond voice, and you have to have Phil Galfond talking in Phil Hellmuth voice. I think that would make for some great coverage.
I love it. Jesse, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you taking the time. You'll always welcome back. You always have a lot of input with the shows that we're doing, which I appreciate. And it's been great to kind of see behind the curtain a little bit and give the viewers and listeners an opportunity to kind of see how the gears turn.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Turns out the joke's on me. I don't know why I have a very vivid memory of one particular April Fool's growing up where I must have been 7. And I had a fake, plastic spider. My mom was in on it and we scared my dad and he was so scared. And it's really funny looking back, and it took me many years until I realized, much longer than it should have, that he was clearly playing along. My dad wasn't much of a screamer. And I don't know. I guess at the time I felt so excited that I played such a good prank on him, but turns out the joke's on me.
I don't know. You know, April Fool's is always fun, and it was always kind of cool to see some of these tech companies go with it, right? Like Google had a kind of a nice, you'd see something kind of weird. The poker world occasionally pull an April's Fools, or there'd be a press release about something or another, and you'd be like, that doesn't make sense. Oh, wait, is it April 1st? Yes, it is. So no specific stories about April Fools that I can remember. I never really perpetrated. You know, maybe once 20 years ago I sent out a tweet to something goofy, but no.
A big thank you to Jesse Wilke for taking the time to chat with us here on the TableTalk BetRivers podcast. Love working with him behind the scenes. He's very knowledgeable and really, he just has a passion and a care for what he does and for the industry and for the players. I'm sure you feel the same way, Keith.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm very excited to. This will be one of our episodes that I'm more likely to go back and watch myself, because I didn't get to be a part of that, and I'm really interested to see what he has to say. And like I said, those guys bring a love of the game and a value on what players value that I find really refreshing.
Do us a favor, like, subscribe, give us the 5-star review. Remember, if you do this, if you give us the review, you will be entered to win a care package from BetRivers that will have probably hats, shirts. I don't know exactly what yet, but we'll choose a winner at random in next month's episode when Phil Hellmuth is slated to join us. Keith, I don't know about you. I've talked to Phil a lot, but I'm always excited to talk to him. I think having him on this show to talk just BetRivers is going to be a hell of a time.
Yeah, absolutely. He's good. He's an expert showman. He always brings the energy, and I would love to sit down and talk with Phil. But yeah, make sure you get those reviews submitted, and make sure you watch the next episode to find out if you won.
I am Chad Holloway. He's Keith Becker. This has been the BetRivers Table Talk podcast. We'll be back next month with a brand new episode. We'll see you then.